to Divinely Human, where divine wisdom meets everyday life. I'm your host, Sarah Asher Rose, therapist, author, and spiritual teacher. This is a space where psychology meets spirituality, where we explore healing, self-trust, and the journey of remembering who we truly are. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's explore what it truly means to be divinely human. Hello, everybody. What if the place that you've always gone for healing secretly becomes the place you hide? My name is Sarah Asher Rose, and that's what we are going to be talking about today's very special episode of Divinely Human. If you are watching us, you could be watching from YouTube Live. I encourage you to comment, give me some likes, some love, and we're going to be answering questions. So you can ask your questions. They will pop up on the screen. If you're joining us from W4W, welcome to my show. So happy to have you here. So before we get started, I'm going to introduce you to what it means to be divinely human. So this show is all about connecting divine wisdom to everyday life. Because what use is divine inspiration, divine knowledge, esoteric wisdom, spiritual wisdom, if we can't anchor it in our everyday life? So, as you listen today, everything that I'm going to be sharing with you comes from my personal experiences as a divine channel, as a healer, as someone who speaks light codes and light language, but also as a therapist, as a practitioner, and as a human being. So, here on Divinely Human, we talk about the whole being, the divine part of us that has the inner knowing, and the human part of us that sometimes can't seem to get out of our own way. So, thank you so much for being here, because Divinely Human is about accepting all parts of you, because it's the human parts, the messy parts, that actually are the parts of us that transform us. So, every show, I'm going to open up the space as a place for you to reconnect to yourself. So, I urge you to come back here every Tuesday at 12 p.m. because Eastern Standard Time, because this is the place where we're going to remember that we are divinely human, that we are divine in our everyday life, and reconnect that part of us to the things that challenge us the most, because it's those things that truly transform us. So I want you to take a nice deep breath. And before I go into today's topic about hiding behind our spirituality and why so many spiritual women hide behind healing and the 4 patterns that keep us stuck and preventing us from shining our own light, I'm going to create a sacred space for you just to invite in some stillness and some silence, and to reconnect with your body, with the sacred wisdom that lives within you. So for some of you, this might be new. My body has wisdom? Yes, your body has a consciousness. This consciousness that bypasses your logical mind. I want you to think about the ocean. I want you to think about the tides, the seasons, the sun, the moon. The sun doesn't try to understand how it's going to rise in the morning, it just does. The oceans move in, the tide moves out. It doesn't question or need to understand how to do that. It just does. It's the pulse, the rhythm of creation, the way that the leaves fall and come back, and don't worry about the winter. Everything has a divine rhythm, and that divine rhythm lives within you. So every show, I'm going to open up the space for you to reconnect with your divine wisdom. Now, this is a special episode because it's all about connecting to that. On future episodes, we're going to have a guest, we're going to have conversations, but this episode is just for you to remember that divinely human essence that lives within you. So in a minute, I'm going to share my story and go on the topic, but let's take a nice deep breath. And let's set the intention to reconnect to that divine wisdom that lives within. Now, if you're driving and listening to this, please don't close your eyes because we don't want you to crash into a tree. But if you're somewhere, even at work, or you're tuning in at home, I invite you to close your eyes, to take a moment just for yourself. And I'm going to guide you through this short little practice to invite in some wisdom from that inner knowing, from that body consciousness. Now, just inviting you to take a nice deep breath. All you have to do is listen to the sound of my voice. And for some of you, this might feel challenging because as you close your eyes and tune into your breath, your mind is going to be active and start listing the laundry list of everything that you have to do. But I want you to pay attention to that if that comes up for you. Taking a nice deep breath into those thoughts and just allowing them to pass by, just like a beautiful cloud on a warm summer day. And right in this moment, there's nowhere you have to be. There's nothing you have to do. All you have to do is listen to the sound of your own breath and your heart and just feel that connection. Feel the air in the room on your skin. Feel your feet on the ground. And just allow your body to speak to you. For some of you, this might be challenging. Others, you might be really good at it. But I want you to just tune into a place in your body, maybe where you feel tension in your shoulders, maybe where there's some anxiety in your chest. And I just want you to pay a little bit of attention to that. That's all. Just breathe into it and remember there's information here, there's wisdom here. And how often do we get a chance to just pause? We're always moving, we're always going. How often do we get the chance to just listen? Listen to the information that our body has within us. Listen. What information is for you in your shoulders? Feel into your shoulders. Are they tight? Are you carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders? What information is in your chest? Are you carrying emotions that you haven't released? What information is in your throat? Are you holding back and not speaking your truth? Again, we're not listening from the mind. We're just feeling into sensations, trusting images, emotions, and feelings that come up when we allow our body to speak to us, that divine wisdom that lives within us. Just inviting in that conversation, allowing yourself to be present, and maybe even asking, what do I need to receive today? Again, not from your mind, just from your consciousness that lives within you, that innate consciousness, and just trusting that. Again, for some of you, this is going to be challenging, but there's no right or wrong answer. Just feeling into that. Thank you. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, if you enjoyed that, if you connected, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you felt from that. What came up for you? Was that hard? Was that challenging? Was that easy? Did you get a lot of information there? Was that uncomfortable? I'd love to hear from you. Taking nice deep breaths. Welcome in, everybody. So excited to be here. So, like I said, today is a special episode. No guests, just me. Tune in next week. We have a special guest. But today, I'm going to share with you my story and who I am and why healing can become a place that we hide. So, I'm going to tell you how I went from a woman struggling to be a single mother and struggling with my own trauma and codependency and low self esteem to having a huge spiritual awakening, becoming a trance channel, and the the difficulty that I had in being a channeler and a human being. And I know that there are some women listening today who struggle with the human parts of their life. There are so many women who are spiritually gifted, who can connect, receive wisdom, healing, information for others. But when it comes to trusting their own wisdom and making decisions, real decisions in real time in their life, they struggle. They don't trust themselves. They doubt. They go to psychics or oracle cards or always asking for signs. And by the way, you don't necessarily have to be a quote unquote spiritual woman or even a woman at all. There are so many people who doubt. Most of us doubt our own inner knowing because we've been taught to doubt that, right? So this was me. So I could be a divine channel and a healer and connect and give people guidance and wisdom. But when it came to receiving that wisdom for myself, I struggled. I did not trust in myself. And I even doubted the wisdom that was coming through me while it was happening. So, throughout the show, as I'm talking about my journey, I'm going to stop and pause and ask you to reflect because things might be coming up for you as I'm talking about myself. What is something that you already know that you're supposed to be doing that you're doubting? What is something that you want to do or want to share, but doubt at the same time? I want you to hold on to that because we're going to go more into that as I unfold my story. Now, when the spiritual awakening happened, okay, I was in my early 30s and I started hearing light language. And as you get to know me, as you watch this show, I'm going to talk to you more about what that is. And if you don't understand it, that's okay. But basically, I had a full on experience where I started channeling higher beings. Okay. And I was thrust into the spotlight of my spiritual community very quickly. So I went from sort of being this young woman, um, struggling with my own issues and my own family trauma, and being in dysfunctional relationships and having very low self esteem and being very self conscious to being the center of this spiritual world where so many people were looking to me for guidance. And what came out of that was me understanding that even though I could access that higher wisdom, my human life was a mess. So if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're able to comment, let me know if you relate to that, right? One part of you can feel so connected, but the human part feels so messy. So my human part was a mess. And I remember when I would enter the room and I would connect to divine, right? Divine energies, divine consciousness. It was the most blissful feeling. It felt so loving. And the energy would come in and I would channel and I would feel this feeling of electricity and aliveness. And then when I would end and leave to go home, I felt that I literally was climbing the dimensions into bliss and love and full on crashed into the ground. And I would drive home and think to myself, now I have to go home to my life, which at the time wasn't fulfilling. I felt stuck financially. I couldn't afford to leave my parents' house. There was a lot of negativity there. I felt alone. I was looking for someone to save me. I just felt in this stuck cycle and pattern of lack. And I struggled with how come I can help everyone else, but I can't help myself. So I would leave and I would channel and give people all this guidance and all this healing. And I would come home and feel depressed about my life. So here was this division and separation between accessing these beautiful realms, but then not being able to live a peaceful, steady, grounded life. It was very imbalanced. Now, I think we had a comment come up on the screen. Um, I really enjoyed your longer channelings of Yeshua. Will you do longer channelings again of Yeshua or other beings? So I would love to do that in the future. Right now, I'm focusing more on the show and connecting to people. But if anyone watching is interested in any of my channeling videos, you can go to my YouTube channel, Sarah Asher Rose or Asher Rose Healing, and you can watch those longer videos of I channel Yeshua, also known as Jesus. I channel Amana, and you can watch those long videos and you can see a progression of my personality of Sarah and the channel. So I want to give you an example of being separated, of living in the divine versus being human. And when I started to realize that just being a channel was not the path that I wanted to take, that I knew somewhere deep inside of me that it was so important to live out my human life. Now, there are so many people in the spiritual community who seek out spirituality for healing, right? But get stuck in the divine part, right? The upper realm. But if you can't bring that into your human body and change your life, you get lost. So we go to spirituality for healing, but then we live in the healing. Now, I'm going to go further into what that means and to how I lived in that and how that might be showing up to you. But I want to give you an example of how this happened and how it started to upset me and make me realize that I wanted more to my life than just channeling. So, have you ever had an experience that sort of becomes a moment for you where something clicks in you, where you realize that I can't go on living this way anymore? Around COVID, I was helping people a lot, getting online and channeling a lot and giving people guidance and advice. And I remember there was this man who he had bought a couple of sessions from me and I would channel for him. And some people became very dependent on the information. How many of you go to psychics, right? Or you're always tuning into your horoscope, right? Or you're always pulling a card, right? This is sort of codependency that happens, right? Now, I'm not saying these things are bad, right? But if we can't silence the noise and access the wisdom within us, then we're always going to be dependent on that. And the bad thing about being dependent on anything is that it's temporary. It can leave, right? Being dependent on anything. So if you are a codependent person, right, you're giving your power away to something else because really you don't trust yourself. And again, we're going to get deeper into that and those patterns and how they show up. But I'm sharing with you my journey. And that moment that I had was during COVID. I was channeling for this man. He was very dependent on the channeling, very obsessed about the information. And I went into a trance. I used to go into a trance. I went into a trance and I would allow Amana, whatever goddess, whatever divine being was, ascended master was working through me. And I would sort of be hollow and allow them to come through me. And I must have done that and the power went out or my computer died. So I was channeling on and on and on and on, and he was gone. So I opened my eyes and I'm like, oh my God, he's gone. Now, right after I would sort of recall and remember, as the day would go on, I would forget, but I would remember. And I came back and I apologized. I said I had no idea that the power went out. And I said, but I remember everything. I'll share it with you. And he said to me, I don't want to hear from Sarah. I want to hear from Amana. That was the goddess that I was channeling. And I remember this feeling inside of me. I felt, wow, but I am that. I am Amana. She is a part of me. I am that. And I no longer wanted to separate myself from the wisdom that came through me. And as I started to realize that, I wanted to feel whole. I wanted to feel grounded and I wanted to guide people from a place, a conscious place. I didn't want to go into a trance anymore. So that led me to social work and becoming a therapist. And in that journey, learning more about healing myself. Thank you so much for your answer. Yes, I got lost in spirituality as well. I really recognize what you're saying. Also, I realized even those beings couldn't help me anymore, even though they hold so much. Yes, I love that you shared that, right? Because everybody's looking to get up here, right? Get up here, get up here, get up here, get up here. Great. Then anchor the wisdom, bring it down because that's where that's where the change happens because we can meditate all day long, but at the end of the day, who's going to be the one who says no to that person who's abusing you? Who's going to be the one who says, I'm not working this job anymore. I deserve more money. Who's going to be the one who ends that dysfunctional relationship? Who's going to be the one? It's going to be you. The ascended masters can't do that for you, right? You're giving your power away when you're keeping yourself here. Why do we do that? Now we're going to go a little deeper into hiding behind spirituality. And then I'm going to talk about the patterns that keep you stuck. And I'm going to share with you a big example of that. So, why do we hide behind spirituality? Because it's safe. Because if you're going up there, you don't have to expose yourself, right? If I'm always Amana, if I'm always Yeshua, if I'm channeling, I don't have to show up as Sarah and do the hard and dirty work. Some of you may know this as spiritual bypassing. Has anybody heard of that? Spiritual bypassing? Okay. Now, that can show up in the spiritual community online. People talk about it a lot as like love and light, right? And really, we're not talking about shadow work, okay? The messy, hard shadow work, right? The messy, hard work of facing my inner demons, facing the insecure parts of me, right? The beings, the light beings, right? They can't do that for you. You have free will. You have to do that work for yourself. It's much safer to hide behind love and light rather than anchoring it into the material world. Because at the end of the day, guess what? We chose to be human. We aren't just light bodies. That's why the show is called Divinely Human. You are a divine being. We all are. We come from the divine. That's who we are. But we also chose to be human. Why did we choose to be human? So we could remember that we are divine in the material and we could create our life from that place. We could recreate our life in that place of remembering who we are as love. Because who we really are is love, right? And in the human body, in the ego, the place where we edge God out, ego, we forget that we are God. So let's take a nice deep breath into this. I know that this is a lot. All right. And I think now is the time to take a quick commercial break. And then when we get back, we're going to go into the patterns and the blocks and the major way that I hid from my human self. We'll be back in 1 minute. Have you ever felt like you knew exactly what you wanted to say and then talked yourself out of saying it? Maybe you've questioned an intuitive message, or rewritten a post you wanted to share, or convinced yourself you're not quite ready to share what you know with the world. You see, most women think that they need more confidence or a better message or some other strategy that's going to teach them how to be more confident. But I don't believe that that's the real problem. I believe your voice has been shaped by unconscious survival patterns that once kept you safe, but now keep you hidden. And that's why I created my free voice archetype quiz. In just 2 minutes, you'll discover the unconscious pattern that's been quietly shaping how you trust yourself, use your voice, and share your gifts so you can stop second guessing yourself and start remembering the woman whose voice was there all along. Visit quiz.sarah-asherose.com and take the quiz today. Okay, welcome back. So if you're interested in taking that quiz, it's pretty neat because it takes everything we're saying and it breaks it down into 4 archetypes and 4 patterns that we're going to talk about today. And you can sort of get a sense of where you're protecting yourself from your humanity, where you're protecting yourself, dimming yourself, keeping yourself small. So, I'm going to share with you how I hid and kept myself small, the biggest way that showed up for me, and then we're going to go into those 4 patterns. But you can check out that quiz at quiz.sarah-asherose.com. And if you want the link to that, go to my Instagram, Sarah Asher Rose, and you can find the link to that in my bio. Okay. So when I had this major awakening, all throughout that time, I was writing. And I was getting these beautiful writings, beautiful downloads from spirit. Okay. How many of you, those of you who are watching, are familiar with Esther Hicks or any of those channels? But they've all written books. And this is wisdom that comes from divine through the channel onto the page. And this would happen to me. I would sort of start writing, and I could feel that these words were coming through me that weren't mine. And I wrote many writings, and I saved them. There was a period of time I was just writing. And I knew that this was going to be a book. It took me 7 years to publish that book. There it is on the screen right now. It's called Return to Remember. There are 27 channel lessons for spiritual awakening with integrations and mantras and practices. There's also a QR code here if you want to check out that book on Amazon. Okay. It took me 7 years. Now, why did it take me so long when the writings just went through me? Because I was in perfectionist. I'm going to go into this in a minute, talking about these 4 ways that you're protecting yourself and hiding yourself and shrinking yourself. Okay. Now, perfectionism is a protection pattern. I did not realize this at the time. I had always known I wanted to write a book. And when these writings came in, I didn't know what to do with it. And I refined it over and over and over. It's got to be this. It's got to be that. It's got to be a story. It's got to have my story. I got to get an agent and a publisher and this. And I sat in my mind about it over and over and over. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. Until this past winter, I finally released it because I realized that it no longer mattered. I shared one of the writings with a friend, and he said, "You got to get this out because these are activations. They're helping people remember who they are. Get out of your own way. It's not about you." And that is what helped me let go of it. And I realized that the perfectionism was keeping me safe. Now, here is the main asterisk of this episode. Okay. There are so many women who have certifications, and I've talked to them on sales calls and conversations. I have this certification. I'm a quantum this healer. I'm an astrologer, and I'm this, and I'm certified in this, right? You might be hearing yourself in this. And I want to start a business, but I got to wait until I'm ready. And I do this and this and this. This is um, perfectionism, right? And you're hiding one more course, one more this, one more this. And this was me because if I'm perfect, I need to be perfect in order to be seen. And if I'm always perfecting and if I'm always taking courses, then I don't have to expose myself because I'm in constant creation mode. How many of you are constantly creating and then it's not good enough? And again, you might be watching and you're like, oh, I'm not spiritual, but maybe you write that email over and over and over again, right? Or the talk has to be perfect or whatever it is that you do. What is perfectionism all about? Why can't I just be seen? Somewhere along the line, and all of these protection patterns that I'm going to name, somewhere along the line, it was a belief that you adopted to protect yourself from not feeling loved or feeling rejection. That's really what it is. So many women, you know, they don't feel enough. So many people don't feel enough. So I hide, I'm dim, right? I keep myself small so that you don't leave, right? Because somewhere along the line, when you were small, when you were little, love became conditional. Love became conditional. So I'm so big and I'm so bright, and people aren't comfortable with that. So I slowly hide and shrink because I'm afraid of being judged. Who does she think she is? Right? Who does she think she is? If you put yourself out there and you're looking great and you show up, right? And you're ready to take on the world, what happens? Someone's there to knock you down. Who do you think you are? Oh, you mean I can't be this shining bright version of me? Okay, I'll make myself smaller, right? And that's what we do. But again, everything I'm naming today, okay, it's all unconscious. And that protection pattern I had about my book, that was unconscious until I was liberated from that. I was liberated from that. As you start to become more grounded, right? And safer in your body. Remember in the beginning of the show, I talked about feeling safe in the body, connecting you. We had a pause, we connected to our body. The safer you are in your body, the more anchored you are. Because remember, everything, all these fears live in our body. That sounds like me in creative mode all the time. Yes, that's a protection pattern. You might not have thought of that. I'm always creating, creating, creating. Oh my God, I am a creator. I'm a Leo. I'm one of the most creative signs. But sometimes it's safer just to be in creative mode instead of pressing play. And here I am live, getting on live, right? Did I plan out the show and write the outline? Did I deviate from it? Yes, right? Because I know that I'm here to shine my light and inspire and help people. So if I'm hiding behind an outline, what good does that do you? You need to see me in order, you need to hear me. I need to be out there, right? So that is a protection pattern. Okay. So I know that some of you are hearing yourself in that. Again, if you hear yourself in any of these patterns, please let me know. And some of this is psychology, okay? We're talking about protection. All right. That's that's the overarching psychological part of this protection. At the end of the day, human beings, right? We want to feel safe. Our ego, I'm giving you a little psychology, then we're going to dive into the patterns, okay? Our ego is the part of us that wants to confine, define, categorize everything, oops, in order to be what? Safe. How many of you are afraid of change? As a therapist, I hear this all the time. I'm afraid of change. So we stay in dysfunctional relationships or we don't quit the job because we're afraid of the unknown. Meanwhile, we're miserable, right? Our ego is like that baby pool we swim in where we understand it's got four walls, right? It's only 3 feet. I'm safe. Even if I'm miserable, I'm safe. But meanwhile, over yonder is the ocean. Oh my God, it's so deep. There's so much possibility. It's beautiful, but it's scary because I don't know how deep that goes. So I'm going to stay in the baby pool, even though, I always joke, I always make this analogy, even though, kids pee in it. It's gross. We're not meant to stay there. We're meant to dive into the ocean. So the ego wants to stay safe, but your soul, this is the divine, right? This is the duality of divinely human, okay? Your soul is like, no, go, go, go deep, go dive, swim, go, go. Your soul knows no fear. We came here knowing no fear and we meet all these divine plans. And then the human part is like, oh God, but I don't feel safe. Right. So, you're, if you're stuck in your ego when you don't want to let go. Okay. So being unconscious, we have these patterns. How many of you feel like you're stuck in a pattern that you might not be aware of? Go to the quiz and I'll help you. Okay. So here are some behaviors that you might exhibit to know that you're in some sort of protection pattern. You ready? This is gold. Okay. This is gold I'm giving you. Perfectionism. I named that. That was my book, right? People pleasing. People pleasing. Who's a people pleaser? Okay. I need people's approval. Okay. I used to post on Instagram and get such a serotonin high from like inspiring people and making people happy. But when it came to promoting my business or selling, right, I would shrink because I didn't want people to, judge me. Oh, who does she think she is selling? Right. People pleasing. You make all these concepts so easy to understand. I'm going to take the quiz. So that is Eric. He is my cousin. He's amazing. He's going to be on the show. I'm so excited to have him. Yeah, come to this show every week. That's what I love to do. Take all these concepts and make them easy to understand because at the end of the day, what's the goal here? To sit on a cloud as a monk? No. You want to change your life and reveal these protection patterns where you're staying small, where you're keeping safe, and where you don't even realize it. That's just the way my life is. No, you're here to shine and live a life worth living and do what you love and be happy. So, self sabotage, right? Why do we self sabotage? It's fear, overthinking, overthinking, overthinking. That keeps you stuck in the mind, right? Like a roller coaster. I just can't. What if this? What if this? What if this? What if this? It's a trap, right? Protection. If you're always in the thinking, you never have to act, right? It's how many of you have heard of analysis paralysis, right? Overgiving. Who's an overgiver? Who's watching who's an overgiver? That was me. I'm working on that. I know, Eric, you're like that too, right? We give, right? We give, we give, we give. What is overgiving about, right? What is overgiving about? They'll love me. It's kind of connected to the people pleasing. They'll love me, right? If what are boundaries about, right? If I say no, if I have a boundary, right? I'm going to displease someone. So again, this all comes from childhood. It's all conditioning. Somewhere along the line, my value, my worth came from giving, pleasing. So that becomes our identity, right? And we think, oh, that's who I am. Is it? Is it? Or is it what you learn to survive, to feel safe? Because somewhere inside, you don't feel safe saying no. You don't feel safe ending the conversation at a half an hour or saying, no, I can't drive to the airport, right? You feel safe when you give, that's your identity, but it's a conditioned identity. And all of this work that we do and the work that I do with my clients is to get to the authentic truth of who you are, not the conditioned identity, and revealing these protection patterns. So, undercharging, if you're a coach or in sales, right? Eric's a coach, right? I'm a coach. Undercharging, again, this is people pleasing, right? Oh, it's okay. They want to work with me. But if I say this is the price, right? Um, ooh, that's too much. Rejection. You don't feel safe. It's all about safety, people. Okay. And these aren't character flaws, by the way. If you identify with any of these, I'm not saying you're a bad person. I, I'm working on all of these, right? These aren't character flaws. They're just strategies built by a younger version of you to survive, to stay safe. We're going to talk a lot about that on this show. Okay? And they worked, but they've outlived themselves. And how do you know that they've outlived themselves? Because they're stopping you. They're stopping you like my book. It was stopping me, from helping people, from being a leader, from living my purpose. And, those patterns succeeded. Oh, there it is again. Thank you, Rebel. There's the QR code. Okay. So, I encourage you to check it out because you'll you'll read the channeled writings and you'll feel what it's like to receive divine wisdom, and then you'll be given those tools to use it in your everyday life. Okay? So, all of this is sneaky. So procrastination, that's another one. It's sneaky. I'm waiting for I'm aligned. How many times have you heard someone say, like, oh, when it's divinely aligned? Now, there's a difference between divine timing, inspired action, and then bypassing and making excuses, or I'm just being humble, right? There's a lot of healers who undercharge, I'm just a vessel and the healing should be free. And yes, maybe, yes, you are a vessel. And yes, if you feel that way, then yes. But at the end of the day, it's also okay for you to receive, right? Um, so here are the 4 ways. Now, I kind of touched on all of them, but number one, right, the perfectionism, refining over and over and over instead of sharing. This is you if you have things like this is me on my computer. I have like hundreds and hundreds of writings and recordings and songs on my computer. They're still in drafts. It's almost ready, right? Here's another one, seeking outside, needing validation, right? You haven't hit, but you doubt it. So you go, how many people do you check in with before connecting to what you already know? Serving others instead of receiving for yourself. All right. Whatever you called service, it might be safety. Okay. If you can't receive for yourself, you're imbalanced. Retreating. All right. When you have an opportunity that actually arrives, this happened to me so many times, and I'm still working on this, getting opportunities and then retreating from this, right? When something started working and taking off and then sabotaging it or retreating it because you don't feel safe. Okay. So all of this again is just to gain awareness. When you are aware of these things, you can integrate them into your everyday life. Now, we have about 5 minutes left to the show. If you have a question or something that's coming up or that you want to ask me, it could be anything about channeling, about what we talked about today, about how to be more balanced, how to stop hiding, where to find me, how to connect with me, anything. Ask those questions now, and Rebel will pop them up on the screen and I can read them. Um, because I want to end this show today with a nice practice again. And remember, you can take the quiz at quiz.sarah-asherose. You can connect to me on my Instagram channel, on YouTube. And next week, we are also going to be having a guest. So I'm really excited for that. All right. Let's do a final practice for today. I want you to check in. Again, if you have a question pop up while I'm doing this, that's okay. I will take a look at the screen. All right. I want you to take inventory on how you were when we started versus where we are now. Did you allow yourself to be fully present during the show? Even if you're watching and you didn't fully understand, what I was talking about. Did you allow yourself to receive? Did you create some space just to connect? That's what this show is for. So check in with your body again, closing your eyes and remembering that every moment is an opportunity to reconnect with the divine wisdom that lives within you. And if you are in any pattern, just asking for more awareness. We have the ability to reconnect to that part of us at any time, anytime. And this can be a practice for you every day. Checking in with your body, closing your eyes, taking a nice deep breath, feeling into your shoulders, your chest. What part of you wants to receive? Ready? I'm going to give you the 3 R's, and you can use this every day. Checking in with your body. What part of you wants to receive? Again, no thought, just feeling into that. What part of you wants to release? What do you need to release? Let it be instant fear, worry, control. What do you need to release? And what do you need to remember? I am enough. I am worthy. Again, you're just going to breathe into that. What do I need to receive? What do I need to release? And what do you need to remember? Remember this practice. This is going to air, airing live on YouTube, but you can watch the replay. You can connect to me at Sarah Asherose. Send me a DM if this episode touched you. Tell me what resonated, what shifted. What are you sitting with? I do read those messages. You can follow me on Instagram. I'd love to hear about your experience. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. And join us next week. I'm going to have a very special guest from here on out. Remember that you don't need to become someone new. Remember to check out my book on Amazon and Return to Remember. You can check that out, and you can go to my quiz.sarah-asherose. Remember, you don't need to reach outside of yourself. Everything you need to know is within you. Thank you for looking forward this time on Tuesdays. Yes, thank you for commenting. Join me every Tuesday. I'll see you then. And remember, You are divinely human. Much love to you guys. I'll see you next week. Bye. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. However, this episode met you, I hope it reminded you of something you already knew underneath the noise, that you are exactly where you need to be. Until next time, remember, you are and have always been divinely human.